Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our live broadcast tonight. Welcome if you're joining us on YouTube Live or Facebook Live. This is the first time we're using this platform, and we seem to have found something that works really well. I'm hugely excited about tonight's interview. I'm going to be interviewing Cat Smith from CityHope Disaster Relief, and then Sanele Gasa, who also works with Disaster Relief, and then Nadine Wright at the end from Nation Changes, all of them doing an amazing job to bring food distribution during this COVID-19 crisis that we're having here in South Africa. So if you're logged on, and I'd love to invite you to drop a comment below that we know you're there, and just a shout out. And so welcome as everybody logs in this Tuesday night. Really good to have you joining with us tonight during this interview. I'm going to invite first up Cat Smith to come and join me on the screen. Cat, great to have you joining us tonight. Appreciate you making the time. Things all going well your side?
Great. Good, thank you very much, Steve. All's going very well, thank you.
That's great. Cat, first up, could you please tell us about CityHope Disaster Relief? Tell us a little bit about the organization and what you guys are doing, what we are doing through CityHope Disaster Relief.
CityHope Disaster Relief has been operating out of CityHill Church for a number of years. We respond to natural and man-made disasters across the country usually, but because of the scale of this disaster, we have been drawn to focus our full attention in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. So we've been focusing the last 2 months on distributing food aid and hygiene and sanitation supplies, as well as educational information in the form of COVID education, to try and equip and empower the community on what it's all about and what they need to do to not contract the disease.
And in terms of, Kat, what you are seeing with people living with very high levels of hunger, loss of income in the township areas, in impoverished communities in and around the city of Durban, please just give us a little bit of an insight into what you guys are seeing and what some of the needs are in these areas.
The needs have been growing exponentially day by day. It's been quite heartbreaking. Our current waiting list is approximately over 10,000 families that have called in or sent in lists of names in their community that are in dire need. All of them are very, very hungry and you could say starving at the moment. So we've got 10,000 families on our books that are out there waiting for food. And then, our phones have been off the hook. We've been receiving one-on-one phone calls from many people in the community who are just crying out for help, going to sleep for many days on end without feeding their children, and just crying directly into the ears of our team, which has been very heartbreaking. And then I've also had employers who have been phoning me and asking for help. They know that their staff are not receiving an income, and they know that they're going to sleep without food. And the employers are calling me and telling me there's 500 families on my books that I know are hungry right now. And how can you help? So we help where we can, and we add them to the list, and we try and shorten the list as quickly as possible.
I tell you, as you just reciting that stuff, I'm getting quite emotional sitting here thinking about families night after night going to bed with zero food, children crying themselves to sleep, hungry. And I know we're feeding thousands. We'll come to some of those stats in a moment, but I don't think if you've got a full stomach, it's easy to comprehend that level of hunger and desperation. And I know our church phone has been ringing off the hook. Your guys' phone numbers, various private numbers that guys have got hold of our staff have just been inundated with phone calls. This is a huge need. It's not just people going without a meal or two, people living in desperate times. Kat, one of the things that's been hugely encouraging has been your partnership with Nation Changes, as well as a number of other NGOs, the KZN Council of Churches, and it's like just loads of people coming together to do something. Please, could you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah. Well, we got together as the KZN response team probably in about June last year. We saw the need for unity and collaboration and the impact that it can make. So our KZN response team was formed back then, which includes CityHope Nation Changers out of CityHill Church. There's the Domino Foundation out of Anthem Church in Durban North. There's Zoe Life, which is to Glenridge in Durban, and then the South African Red Cross Society, which has a fantastic footprint across KZN. So we were working together previously, but this project has just taken things to another level. So we decided to just have one voice, one vision, one mission, and just talk through this whole program together. And it's been phenomenal. Many people across KZN know that if you want something, contact KZN response team and they'll help you to get it sorted out. We have supported over 50 local nonprofit organizations and churches that have knocked on our doors and asked for help. And we've been able to distribute aid through about 50 local organizations in the province of KZN. So it's been quite a phenomenal experience to just bring this unity across the church.
I just love hearing that idea of like-minded people getting together because of our faith and doing something about the problem. I think it's so easy at this time for people to moan and complain. It seems like the human heart is given to whinging. I don't know how better to put that, but I love what you guys and what we were able to do together to actually do something. And I think you guys have been far too busy to whinge at all. There's just been, let's get out there and be part of the solution to this problem. Cat, there's also been such a huge outpouring of generosity. I mentioned some of the stats on Sunday in my message, but I'm going to ask Kev just to put it up on the ticker across the bottom. We have had 242 tons of food distributed. The other stats will go through as well. I mean, you've seen all this food, most of it you've seen come in and go out. How has the scale of this food aid impacted you? I mean, it's not like going grocery shopping, filling a few trolleys. This is truckloads.
Yeah, it's been phenomenal. So one thing that has come out of the collaboration is that we have more than one packing site. So that has helped us to distribute the effort. So we pack weekly at CityHill Church in Hillcrest, as well as Anthem Church in Durban North. So it's been very, very busy. Our teams have developed some muscle over the last 2 months with offloading without forklifts, without pallet jacks. The 10-ton trucks roll in every week by the dozen, and the guys just keep on laboring hard and dedicating many long hours, which we're very grateful for.
There's also, I know you've spoken to me about the generosity of corporates and businesses as well as individuals. It's like everybody who's found out about this has just been doing something to the level that they can do. Must have been very encouraging for you to be dealing with businesses that are saying, how can we get involved?
Yeah, it's been phenomenal. Over the last 2 months, we've distributed 4.5 million rands worth of food and supplies into the community. 50% of that has been in kind through donations of all the various items, and 50% has been in the form of cash, which has come through largely from the public. So we have you to thank for that. We've received 500 financial transactions since the beginning of lockdown. So there are hundreds of people in the community that have contributed to this project, and we are hugely grateful for them.
Awesome. And Kat, just a final question before I go to Sanele. When you are spinning plates all over the place, you're a mom, you're a wife, your kids have been at home, you've been handling all this traffic, you've been like the switchgear in a very busy train yard. What's it been like? I mean, are you doing okay?
We obviously all have our ups and downs. I think we've all realized that. So we've had some downs, but we've been going through it for a while now. So we're starting to find our routines, set in place new systems for the family, trying to prioritize our values and put family first, because for us, they're the most important. And yeah, with that foundation, everything is starting to stabilize and work itself out at last.
Awesome. Kat, if we were on the church stage having this interview, I'd ask everybody to give you just a deafening round of applause for all that you and everybody else is doing. So it's going to have to be an online applause, but really do just want to give you guys, whole family, you and Jeff, the kids, just a big high five. And thank you so much for leading the charge in CityHope Disaster Relief with all you're doing. Really, we celebrate what God's doing through you guys.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Steve, and thanks for the opportunity.
Great, you're welcome. There'll be, I'll give details towards the end of this interview on how you can get involved and give into these projects. But before we get there, I'm going to invite Sanele to join me. So thanks, Cat, and welcome to Sanele. Going to join me up on the screen. Sanele, welcome, and thanks so much for joining us tonight.
How's it, Steve? Thank you. Thank you for everything.
I see that you are advertising those hope buckets that we're distributing. How many of those buckets have we packed so far altogether, Sanele?
We've packed more than 5,000 here only at the CityHill packing site.
And more than 5,000 elsewhere. I think it's more than 10,000 altogether.
It's more than 10,000, including the Anthem Church packing sites. Yeah.
That is amazing. Yeah. Sanele, you are a lot of days you're going out on site, handing out this food to people that are just desperate and hungry. Could you tell us some stories of what you're seeing that's impacting you?
One of the highlights, not a highlight, but a story that moved my emotions. It was when we handed a relief aid to one lady at Ambo. She lives with her granddaughter and 2 sons, and the other one, he's not in a good situation at the moment because he's sick. And also this lady, she's on pension as well. But that day was her birthday, and they didn't have anything to eat. And we handed the relief aid to her. She only asked the question. Afterwards, she just wept, because she said, "How do you know it's my birthday and I don't have anything to eat?" And then she just cried. Yeah, that's moved me, to be honest. And it was her birthday, and also Jesus kind of visited her and the family. Because during this time, I've had so many stories to people that we've been helping, because they have children with them, and children, they're not going to school. Children, they're full-time with them now. And they always want something to eat. And yeah, they've been running out of food, people in the townships and also in different communities.
That's great. So Nelly, maybe I could just ask you to speak up a little bit. It's coming through, but it's coming through a little bit quietly. Also, just knowing some of your story, think of how beautiful it is. You were raised in extreme poverty. You know what it's like to have faced hunger. Many nights you fell asleep without food. It must be a very special thing for you to be able to give out food to other people and just bring that joy into so many families' households.
Yeah, Steve. I remember, I think it was 2017 when I firstly joined CityHope Disaster Relief as a volunteer. The Lord grabbed my shirt like this and said, "I want to place you here. I want you to make it different here." I know how to receive something to eat from someone, like having those thoughts that someone was actually thinking about you. That's plate. That's something to eat when you know that you won't have anything to eat in the evening or the next day. Yeah, to be honest, it's been a privilege. I found it's a privilege for me to do what I'm doing, like as I'm doing it full time now. I remember at first week of the lockdown, I had a conversation with God. Personally, I said, "God, I believe in your word. You say the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. I want to do this. I want to do this for you. I'm sure I won't get sick. Send me, Lord. Send me. Send me." And yeah, Steve, I don't want to cry because I know how it feels to get something to eat. Because I've been there. I've slept with nothing to eat. I've had people who come to me and say, "Sanele, here's something to eat." I know how it feels. That's why I also want to to make a difference to other people's lives.
Yeah. Sanele, that's awesome hearing you talk. You must be the man with the broadest smile that I know. And it's been so odd having to have the social distancing with not be able to see people and just to connect. But we've been able to get permits for some staff members, for some volunteers. Could you tell us a little bit about the hard work that it takes? I mean, we say we're impacting 48,000 people with food, but that requires lifting tons of food, offloading, loading up. You must be strong. Those muscles must be growing over this time.
Oh, Steve, I don't know where to start with this, but we've had the good time with the boys here. When we pack, we've been dancing. That's the first thing. We've been joking just to make more, work fun, you know, like we've been dancing. You must check us on Facebook. And yeah, Steve, we are so grateful with the volunteers from Red Cross and also CityHill staff and Domino Foundation, Jono Akers and Sanele, my friend, and other guys who have been saying, oh, I want to do this. Yeah. And yeah, we've been offloading trucks. And I remember we were having a conversation with Robbie. We said, Robbie, at the beginning we started carrying 2 buckets, but actually we can carry 4 buckets now. At the same time, we wish that we have big hands to carry more buckets. And yeah, like it has been fun doing this, packing, playing music, and yeah.
It's brilliant. Sanele, you alluded to it earlier, but that's one of the things that drives you with all of this work is your deep love for God. Yes. And that you're part of a local church. Yeah. How important is it for you that we as a church do something, that we're not just talking to God about our lives, but we're also putting our faith into action however we can?
First of all, Steve, I would like to say, send many thanks to the church, especially people who have been praying for us. Yeah, coronavirus is a dangerous disease. We all know that, and we're surviving through grace. Yeah, that's what I can say. I believe that the church can continue to pray for us, and also and allow God to speak to you. Maybe you want to sow generously financially. You're welcome to do that. The need is very, very, very high, and people are still hungry. And yeah, we actually in need of your help.
Mm. Yeah. That's awesome, Sanele. I was just a little story from our family on Sunday. We were watching the church service with our 2 teenage boys and a little girl. And when it came to the end, after all the needs had been explained, and the Zapper code came up to enable us to give, both my boys immediately said, we want to give now. We want to help people. And from their pocket money this month, both of them contributed without us even saying anything. And it was really special. So I think what you're saying is everybody can get involved in some way. It might be on the ground, those with permits, but we can give 50 Rand, 100 Rand, pray, and have our hearts stirred for the great needs around our city at this time. Yeah. Sanele, it has been wonderful chatting to you. Thank you so much for your time. And I'm going to invite Nadine to come and join us. But well done on the good work. And thank you to you and all the team that are busy moving all of that food out. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Steve.
Good evening, Nadine. How are you doing tonight?
Very well, and thank you, Steve, for inviting me to chat tonight and share this amazing passion that we have for nation changes and what's happening. Thank you.
Brilliant. Nadine, nation changes that you lead and CityHope Disaster Relief that Cat leads, you're both based at the CityHill offices, but different organizations with different structures. Could you give us just in a minute or two what the primary focus of nation changes is? We know disaster relief is for that purpose, disasters. What is nation changes doing?
Well, since inception 6 years ago, Nation Changes volunteers have worked at building relationships as we've gone into schools, as we've built relationships with people who are doing skills development. So our vision is to empower communities right on our doorstep based on Isaiah 58, and to educate children and empower people to become economically self-sustaining. So we have a trusted, loyal network of people that we work with in these communities, and that has proved invaluable at this time. And our primary focus is, as much as our capacity will allow, to keep that network from going hungry.
Yeah. And during this time, you guys with Disaster Relief and all the other organizations mentioned earlier by Cat have really been devoting yourselves to feeding. And I know education is a large part of our priority at other times outside of lockdown through nation changes. Could you tell us, you're a qualified school teacher, you're passionate about education. What has the impact of this COVID-19 lockdown been on education in impoverished areas?
Well, sadly, this pandemic has had a seriously negative impact on education and children in impoverished areas on all levels. And when I chat to school principals and teachers at the schools that we support to ask for their perspective on the impact, they've come back with a resounding, it's actually terrible. However, Nation Changes is uniquely positioned in that we've built these relationships with people who have the ear to the ground, who are able to distribute food in their own communities because they know best who the most needy are. So they in themselves have provided an amazing network for us to work through.
That's really, really awesome. I'm going to ask Kev just to run those stats along the bottom for anybody who missed the first part of the interview, but all this aid that's been going out, 240 tons of food, 34,000 toilet rolls, 34,000 hand soaps, 40,000 hand sanitizers, 4.7 million rand altogether. That number's growing. 48,000 people impacted through all that the different organizations are doing. That number, 48,000 people, must bring real joy to your heart. Nadine, are you still there? It seems to have glitched a little bit. Great. Nadine, it seems like it just hung there a little bit. I'm not sure if you heard my question. That's seeing all these stats.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. My last question was hearing that this food has impacted 48,000 people. That must bring a lot of joy to your heart. Great. We seem to have lost Nadine temporarily there. So I'm going to invite Cat and Sanele back to join me on the screen. Just when you guys thought your time was done, Sanele, I'm calling you back again. If you're there, there we go. That's brilliant. Cat, a question that I was going to ask Nadine, but I'm sure you would have some stories as well, is just outstanding stories of courage of people that you've seen impacted and just doing the best that they can under really trying circumstances.
Yeah, the stories have been amazing. The number of moms that have just been persevering through this difficult time, just doing the best that they can to try and feed their babies, trying to think outside the box on how they can create income in this time. Many in the community are trying to manufacture face masks to try and sell. So families are trying their best to realign so they can generate income under the new circumstances. Yeah,
that's really awesome. Nadine, we lost you there briefly, so we've got all four faces on screen. Great to have you back. Apart from the other aid that we briefly referenced, I just wanted to mention this. We have been donated 14 tons of baby food. A business person donated 28 tons of vegetables. That must have been cool seeing those trucks with all those veggies come on site. 32,000 rice meals from Rise Against Hunger. Mr. Price gave those 40,000 hand sanitizers. Pale Pack donated 5,000 buckets. Glodina 8,000 face cloths. I mean, it's just been this outpouring of stuff, all of which we've been able to take and use. Nadine, you've been watching a lot of it go out. It must have made your heart very glad to see people impacted through that stuff.
Absolutely. There is such a vibe there where we're packing. As those trucks roll in, everybody's jumping and dancing and throwing bags around, playing the drums on the 10 kg maize meal bags. And so there's just great jubilation. And as we pack the Nation Changes meals, we know that each of those packs will provide 6 people with a wholesome meal. And that is great too. For the people who are sticking the stickers on the bags, we're doing 20,000 at this point. I just say to them, with each sticker you put on, remember that's a meal for 6 people. And so it's incredibly rewarding to be a part of all the action.
That is really, really awesome. Just in the last couple of minutes we've got together, I just seeing all of your faces there. For anybody watching it, these guys are spearheading our efforts, but they can't do it alone, and they can't do it without some income going into those pots. And although there's been this money coming in so far, 4.7 million rand, including cash and donations in kind, we heard what Cat said earlier, another 10,000 families. That's approximately 40,000 people on waiting list, just saying we're desperate. People looking to get food somewhere, somehow. And so if you would like to somehow contribute, I'm going to ask Kev just to put up the 2 website addresses of the different organizations. First of all, CityHope Disaster Relief.org, and then nationchanges.co. Kev, maybe you can just switch between those as I talk. But you guys told me that 400 rand could provide food for a family of 4 for 3 weeks, for 21 days. And I'm guessing that if people are able to watch this, they've got access to data. Their food budget's more than 400 rand a month. Sanele, if someone was to give 1,200 rand, that's 12 people for 21 days. The impact of this is just amazing. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's really amazing. And I remember, because with the vouchers, Cat, they firstly tasted to few people, and then I was one of the people who received a voucher, and I was so happy to get an SMS saying that you have a voucher of 410 rand, go and spend it at Checkers. And I can imagine how many people who get smiles by receiving even a voucher or a relief aid. Yeah.
Brilliant. So we're giving out a whole lot of food in those packs that you can see behind Sanele, but to people that we can't get to, we're also distributing vouchers. It's a more efficient way, and we are, checking that all of those recipients are genuine, and it's going directly to the recipients. And so I really just want to celebrate all that you guys are doing. Nadine, in closing, any comments from your side about if you were to speak to people watching this from their computer screen or on their TVs, what would you say?
Well, firstly, it's been heartwarming to have received so many messages asking if people can help. So there've been so many who would like to volunteer. Obviously, we're restricted in that initially permits had to be held before one could pack or distribute food. And now in level 4, we can't gather in more than 10 people at a time. But yeah, it's just been amazing what's been achieved with a small team. And we just thank everybody for all the financial contributions. It just makes me think of Joseph in the Old Testament, where for 7 years during the abundant years, he stored grain. And then for 7 years in Egypt, he was able to sustain thousands of people by giving out grain. And so we're so grateful for all that's come into the silos of Nation Changes. Yeah. We believe that we're here for such a time as this. And we are just so excited about the impact that we're able to make for those who need it most. Yeah. And just thank you to everybody. And just to reiterate what Sanele said, please keep praying.
Absolutely. Yeah. Cat, a final word from your side.
In terms of your question with regards to how I feel with the impact of reaching 48,000 people, every time I think of the number, I picture the CityHill auditorium, which I know can hold 4,000 people. And every time the number gets bigger, I have to multiply that by a bigger number to try and imagine how many people it would look like. So it's been incredible that it's gone beyond my imagination, that I can't even envision 10 times the CityHill auditorium on a full concert day. So that's, that brings tears to my eyes, thinking that it's that many people that are eating because of the work that's being done by everybody around us.
Brilliant. Well, guys, thank you so much for your time tonight. And again, just for anybody watching this, we've been talking some large figures in terms of the need as well as what's come in so far, but even 50 Rand, even 100 Rand, like my boys wanted to give on Sunday, can make a difference. 50 Rand can feed one person for 10 days, which is absolutely astonishing. So please jump onto those websites, look how you can get involved. But we just want to celebrate and salute you, Sanele, Cat, Nadine, all the rest of your teams and all the volunteers involved. Thanks so much for being part of this interview tonight, and I hope you have a good rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks very much, Steve. Thank you.
Thank you.